Welcome to my channel where we cover the lore of Final Fantasy XIV. We cover the stories both big and small, the epic and the cute, the silly and the tragic. I hope you all enjoy the ride, and welcome to the Chronicler of Lore. Ul'dah is the home of the Colosseum and the Gladiators Guild, where warriors train to fight day in and day out in hopes of winning enough gil to be able to buy anything, even a spot in the Syndicate. While joining the criminal leaders of Ul'dah may not be high on the Warrior of Light's bucket list, training with some of the best fighters and getting to beat them is something he's more than interested in doing. Of course, before you can join, Mila, the leader of the guild who has the title of the First Sword, has to approve of you. She looks you over and you seem strong enough. But of course you have to prove that you are, and you do that by taking a list of small creatures nearby and slaughtering them with your sword. I'll never understand why these people think it's a real test of strength to be able to cut down a squirrel with a saber, but you want to join and that's your first task, so it's got to be done. Since you've proven that the likes of squirrels and ladybugs are no match for your combat skills, Mila sent you to the quicksand because Momodai is having problems with a gang of Lamentin marauders harassing people outside of her tavern. The fact that these men are harassing regular folks means they're cowards, and you may not even have to draw your sword if you can intimidate them enough. Simply taunting the men outside makes them leave their victims alone, but the guy inside of the tavern is made of sterner stuff, and he decides to kill you for bothering him. However, a man who was drinking at the table nearby steps in. At first the marauder is talking tough to him, until he notices the very unique sword on the man's waist. Apparently the sword is extremely rare and carried by the man with the title of Sword of Nald. Whatever that title means, it must be serious because the marauder not only leaves, but he apologizes first. The guy with the strange sword commends you on your bravery, but he thinks you were a little bit stupid for confronting the guy, but that's only because he hasn't seen you fight. The man's name is Aldis, and he says that he would buy you a drink, but he's broke, so he can't. Don't know why he even brought it up then if he didn't have any money, but you know. He claims that he used to be a gladiator, but now he just wanders around doing stuff. He would talk to you more, but he has a beautiful woman waiting for him in his room, so he's got more important things to do than stand there with you. When he leaves, Momodai is shocked that Aldis is even still alive, a fact that she wants you to keep from Mila because apparently the two of them have history, and it's not the good kind. You barely talk anyway, so keeping secrets is your strongest ability. When you get back to the guild, Mila has already heard about how you made the marauders run away, and she's proud of you, but there's been reports of some raiders attacking merchants near Scorpion's Crossing, and it's probably the same men who you just ran off, so you head to the crossing to hunt them down again. They robbed a merchant, but they haven't gotten far, so you catch up, put them down, and get the merchant's stuff back. Since that was everything he owned, he's really grateful that you got it all back for him. And of course, Mila is happy that you completed the job, which is a part of your training, because while these criminals were weak, the next ones you deal with might not be, so you have to be ready. The next battle comes quickly because Mila hears word of a few violent murders in the area. The people were killed with spears, which makes her think that the culprits might be lancers. While the attacks are dangerous to the city, it's only a matter of time before a gladiator gets attacked too. A part of the lancers group was hanging around Stone's Throw, and they're likely the people you're after, so Mila sent you to check. The lancers are attacking a gladiator when you get there, and after you deal with them, the man says that the people were looking for a guy named Aldis. Even though he's clearly not Aldis, they still tried to kill him too. When you get back to Mila and tell her about the Lancers, she's confused about why the Duskwights would be coming all the way from the Black Shroud. But before you can tell her about Aldis, Bruce comes running in screaming about a lot of Lancers hiding out in the tunnels near Blackbrush Station. She tells you to go with him to deal with them since you were already working on that problem anyway. But she probably should have sent more than just the two of you since there are quite a few Lancers, but the two of you managed to handle it. When you finally get back and tell Mila about Aldis, she can't even believe he's still alive. But there's still more work to do, so there's no time to dwell on that now. A request came from both the Immortal Flames and the Brass Blades for some help keeping an outpost at Camp Drybone secure. The Eorzea have been raiding caravans in the area, and even though they've always been at war with the people, these attacks are too frequent to ignore. She's already sent a few men out there, and she wants you to go and join them. Your assistance comes at the right time, and you finish off the last of the Eorzea before they can kill anyone else. One of the other gladiators sticks around to help the merchant so you can go back and report to Mila. When you make it back, Aldis actually shows up, catching Mila completely off guard. She recovers fast and demands to know where he's been for all these years. She thought he was dead, and him just showing up after having dishonored the guild makes her threaten to stab him. Her emotions are a little bit all over the place, which is apparently exactly how Aldis remembers her. He wants you to meet him at the quicksand because he wants some company, and when you show up, which he didn't expect, he seems like he really did just want someone to talk to, and he starts by complimenting you on your swordsmanship and your seeming strength of character. As for that very unique sword of his, the thing is called Frenzy, and the reason it's so unique is it was made by a very skilled blacksmith named Geralt. He made 2 identical swords for 2 champions of the Colosseum. Aldis starts to tell you something about the man who has the sword's twin, but robed assassins burst in with the sole purpose of removing Aldis's head, but since he's attached to it, he decides to take theirs, and you go to back him up. Even though you're outnumbered, the 2 of you come out on top. Aldis knows who sent the men, although he didn't think he'd send mercenaries after him in broad daylight in a crowded tavern. He would continue the conversation, but the attack ruined the mood, so he decides to pick up your meeting another time. While you were fighting in the quicksand, another member of the guild got attacked and seriously injured by what Mila thinks is some more bounty hunters. It may even be a trap to lure out Aldis, but you still have to go and help. He called and said he was taking shelter at the Coffer and Coffin, so Mila wants you to take him a potion to help him make it back to the city. You find him and he's in bad shape, but the potion does help, which makes me really want to know what's in those things. The Gladiator can't really tell you much because the attack happened so fast. He doesn't even know why they left him alive, but he knows that somebody had to have seen something. A guy at the station saw a man in a purple robe talking on a link pearl, saying something about the wrong man in the Silver Bazaar. After you check the spot where the man got attacked, you find a strange ring that you take to Wymond, who's in the business of knowing pretty much everything about everything, and he knows what the ring is. It's not something you should be flashing around. The ring is a symbol of the Olicron, a criminal organization that's grown pretty large pretty fast in Ul'dah. They have connections to pretty much every organization in the city, and they're so bad that Wymond doesn't want any part in whatever you all have gotten yourselves into. Mila finds it hard to believe that the Olicron are behind the attack, but one of her people came back saying a group of bandits are heading toward the Silver Bazaar, looking for a man with a large bounty on his head. The people who live at the bazaar will be in real danger if the group of bandits starts going through their property hunting their target, and there aren't enough brass blades in the area to keep them safe, so Mila's gonna lead some gladiators to help defend the place. Aldis overheard her, something he shouldn't have been able to do since Mila told him to never come back to the guild, but he ignored her because he doesn't want her dragging her men off to fight an enemy that she doesn't know anything about, especially since it really is the Olicron, and they're more dangerous than Mila is giving them credit for. Aldis wants to deal with them alone since he's the one they're actually looking for. They've been trying to kill him since he came back to Thanalan. Mila doesn't care about any of what he's saying. He left her without a word 7 years ago, so the fact that he just walked back in and thought she'd take his advice just makes the woman mad. Since he can't talk her out of going, he just leaves, and you all head to the Silver Bazaar. The Olicron are there in force, but Mila brought more than a handful of people of her own, and the battle flows in your favor. Eventually you push the majority of the Olicron back, and Mila celebrates the victory until the leader of the group shows up and she recognizes the man. Some of her soldiers attack him before Mila can stop them, and they're killed by his guard Zana, who is clearly a bit stronger than the average members of the organization. Instead of continuing the fight, they leave, but you notice the leader is carrying the twin of Aldis' sword as you all carry your wounded away. When you get back to the guild hall, Aldis tells Mila that the reason he had tried to stop her from going was because he didn't want her to know that Leovold, their old friend, had taken over the Olicron. In the past, Aldis and Leovold had dominated in the Colosseum as the twin swords of Narthal. They were so good that even Raubahn had applauded their skills, although I doubt they could have fought him. But now Leovold not only took over the Olicron, but turned the group into the most feared criminal organization in Thanalan, and that's why Aldis came back, to deal with his old friend. Mila can't believe the man turned criminal, but his desire to kill Aldis is enough proof to show that he really has broken bad. But Aldis promises to find him and deal with him so Mila won't have to. Mila apologizes to you for putting you into a battle that none of you were ready for. The only reason things hadn't turned out really bad is because Leovold didn't join in the fighting. If he had, a lot more men would have died. Still, she has to know why her friend went bad, so she has some people trying to track him down. One of these scouts have vanished, so Mila thinks he's either been captured or killed, and she wants you to search for him because if he's alive, then he likely won't be for long. The last report she got said the man was tracking the Olicron in western Thanalan, so that's your next stop. When you find the scout, the whole thing turns out to be a trap, but you bring the attackers down. The Gladiator isn't all that badly hurt, so he sends you back to Mila to let her know what happened. The woman's glad to hear some good news for once, and after all the work you've done for the guild, you deserve some rest, after you see what Lulusu has for you. The woman has a message from Aldis. He wants you to meet him at the Lich Yard in Eastern Thanalan since Mila gets mad every time he comes to the guild. You find him standing in front of Mila's father's grave thinking about when the man had died 7 years ago and how he had been a true master of the sword. After he died, Mila had been forced to take over the guild, and he left her without any help, making the job even harder. He starts to say more, but in typical fashion, one of the members of the Olicron shows up to interrupt you. They must have put a tracker on one of you, because they show up every time you're talking to the man. This time it's Zana, Leovold's guard, who shows up. Aldis would deal with her himself, but he decides to use this moment to evaluate your skills. They prove to be far greater than hers. After you put an end to the woman, Aldis sees that with your skills you could be a real help to Mila, someone she can rely on, which is the opposite of him. But he does promise to put an end to the Olicron problem. He owes it to Mila's father. You've been gone for long enough, so Aldis sends you back to the guild so Mila won't get suspicious. Not long after you get back, Mila gets some news that ticks her off. Of course, it seems like a lot of stuff makes the woman upset. However, this time she has a legit reason. Aldis has been arrested by the Brass Blades, and they claim he was plotting to kill the Sultana. She knows the claims are false because not only does Aldis not have a motive, but if he was going to kill the woman, he'd stab her, not use poison. That means the Olicron used their connections to get him arrested, since they haven't been able to deal with him in the honorable ways like sneak attacks and jumping him with a whole group of people. She didn't believe Wyman when he said the Olicron had that type of power, but there's no denying it now. So she plans on putting that man's knowledge to good use, and she sends you to see what else Wyman knows about the Olicron. The man was expecting you, of course. After Aldis went quietly with the soldiers, he knew that Mila would be sending someone to see what he knew. Although he is surprised Aldis didn't put up a fight, considering how there is no way the Olicron will let him live. Not with Leovold in charge. But you don't know anything about their history, so Wyman fills you in so you can finally stop being so clueless. Aldis and Leovold were two of the best gladiators to ever step in the arena. That much you already knew, but you didn't know how much money could be made on the fights. Apparently Aldis got greedy and set up a scheme to rig a match to make a lot of money, and the people found out about it, which got him banned from the arena. This all happened around the time Mila's dad got sick and died, which a lot of people still think the man was either killed by Aldis or killed himself because of the shame Aldis brought on the guild. True or not, those rumors only made things worse for Aldis, so he left, causing Mila to lose the two most important men in her life at the same time. As for Leovold, he tried to go solo in the arena, but he wasn't as good as Aldis, so his career was pretty much over, which led to where he is now. The story makes Aldis look bad, but having spent time with the man, the Warrior of Light doesn't exactly believe the accusations, either about the attempts on the Sultana or the fight rigging that got him expelled from the arena. But Wyman doesn't doubt what the man might have done, especially considering the type of poison they say he was caught with. The stuff is called Rauger's Bile. It's very potent stuff that only the Corpse Brigade knows how to make. He doesn't know why they'd give the stuff to Aldis, but you can go to their base in southern Thanalan and ask yourself, although I doubt they'll be willing to talk. Before you leave, Wyman tells you to let Aldis know that the two of them are even after this, and he hopes it was all worth it, whatever that means. The Corpse Brigade is not in the least bit happy to have you snooping around, and they make that known by trying to murder you, but you find the proof you need and bring it to Mila, only to find out they've sent Aldis out to be executed. But the proof you have that the Olicron bought the poison should be enough to get the charges dropped, so you race off to Highbridge before it's too late. Evidence or not, the Olicron had no plans on leaving this up to chance, so the executioner goes to kill Aldis anyway since he's been paid off. However, Mila hadn't planned on letting the execution go through either, and she came with enough gladiators to free the man, and she brought his sword. Of course, Aldis' original plan was to steal the headsman's axe and cut his way out of there. But of course, once he cuts his bonds, the executioner runs off, but the Olicron are there in force, as well as Leovold himself, which was why Aldis let himself get taken. He was trying to draw the man out. Aldis charges off to fight his former teammate while you go help Mila deal with the rest of the Olicron. Just like before, the Gladiators prove to be better fighters, and Aldis defeats Leovold. The man is still mad about what happened in the arena, but not because Aldis rigged the fight. It's because he wouldn't accept losing one fight for the two of them to make a lot of money. As punishment, Leovold ruined him, making it look like he was the criminal and destroying the reputation that was so important to him. all over a little bit of money. Still, after Leovold throws himself off of the bridge instead of letting himself get arrested, it's all over. The Olicron are dealt with for the most part, and you all head back to the guild where Aldis decides not to stick around since there are more members of the organization out there and they might want revenge for him ruining what they had. So he leaves, once again abandoning Mila, although he says some things to make her upset so she won't miss him as much, at least not right away. This concludes the story of the Gladiators. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe, and ding that notification bell. And if you want to buy me a coffee for my work, sign up to become a member of the channel. Until next time, guys. Later.